Thank you. My name is Chuck Winger, State Senator, member of the Senate Higher Education Policy and Budget Committee. During the past several years, thousands of students have marched at this Capitol. Thousands of students complaining about the escalating costs of higher education, tuition and fees, and also textbooks far outpacing inflation. Nationally, it's a huge issue, and we need to do something about it, and I commend the students for putting together this thoughtful proposal. And I also commend Senator Hoagland and Representative Erdahl for laying the foundation with the study that was done over the past year. Basically, this bill calls for disclosures to students to make more informed decisions. They need price information. Secondly, we would like to look at implementing, first in a pilot, a textbook rental program, which will save money for students. And that's why we're here. We represent the public interest, not the publishers' concern about whether it's constitutional or not. Testimony in committee last night, where the bill was heard, and we'll get further consideration after we work out a few questions on definitions. Testimony was very convincing that the cost of textbooks are way too high. Remember, when you talk about the cost of attending higher education, it's not just tuition and fees or board and room. The fastest growing part is for textbooks, and we need to do something about it. Several states have passed legislation. This has been shaped on some of the best ideas that have come forward in America, and I commend the students for their initiative in doing their homework, and hopefully we as their messengers, as authors of the legislation, can get some results to get a better handle on the outrageous costs for textbooks and what we can do to contain the costs for higher education.
Thank you for coming out here today. My name is State Representative Frank Moe. I sit on the House Higher Education and Workforce Development Committee, and I also teach at Bemidji State University. When I first ran for office several years ago, probably the #1 issue for me teaching at Bemidji State University was really being tired of watching the cost of higher education go up for my students. And in the previous 6 years before I ran for office, tuition had gone up at Bemidji State University 96%, and it almost doubled. So many of my students were telling me that they had $30,000 and $40,000 in debt when they graduated. But the other part of this, and many of the other authors have told you about this, is the other part of the student debt is how much they're having to borrow just to pay for their textbooks. We've taken testimony in the House Higher Education Committee that students are paying $400 and $500 per semester just to buy their textbooks. Now that's, if you're looking at tuition of $5,000, that's adding another 20% to the cost of tuition every year. And that money is going on the debt for these students. They can't afford it. They're borrowing the money. Many of them are having to drop out of school, get a job. Hopefully, they'll be able to save up enough money to come back to school. This is the hidden cost to higher education. And it's inspiring to me to see the students. The students are the ones that are leading this charge to say, you know what, faculty, institutions, and first and foremost, publishers, you have to stop gouging us. We are not going to pay for your profits anymore. Reasonable profit makes sense. Anybody who does business in the state of Minnesota should make a reasonable profit. But the margins that they're making on these textbooks is just, it's absurd. And we have some examples up here of textbooks, how much they've cost, and the different editions. This particular book has had an edition, a new edition in 95, 98, 2000, 2003, 2005, and 2007. You know, business hasn't changed. This is a business textbook. It hasn't changed that much to have a new edition every 2 years. This book costs $135. Some of the textbooks that I teach, you know, they have a new edition every year for an intro environmental studies textbook that I teach, and they won't let us buy back and sell the old editions. Now I look at the textbooks that I teach, and they change the color, they change maybe the forward is a little bit different, they rearrange things, but the basic science and material in this textbook is the same. And we have an obligation to say, listen, you know, this textbook hasn't changed dramatically. We can't charge students another $150 this year just for a new textbook when the one that they can buy from their roommate is just as good. So we need to put a stop to this. And this bill does it again. I'm really inspired by the students that are putting this together. It's really, you know, again, it's an example of the college students leading and the legislature following. They're doing a fantastic job. What it says is that the faculty we have to disclose, we have to be more responsible assigners of textbooks. Institutions have to be more responsible. But first and foremost, publishers have to be very clear and concise when they and disclose to us what the changes are of books, what the costs are to textbooks. And, you know, when you ask, actually when a rep for the textbook company comes to me and talks to me about a new textbook, it's like pulling teeth just to find out how much the dang thing costs. You know, they don't want to talk about that. And so they have to disclose that information. It seems like just a minimum standard. We just got to do this. It makes sense. Everybody recognizes how expensive college tuition is, how expensive college is in general for students, how much their debt is. This is a very common sense, reasonable approach to getting a handle on the cost of textbooks. I'm excited to carry this bill, and I'd be glad to talk to publishers or anybody else for that matter. In fact, I just talked to some faculty members. They say, Frank, get that thing done. This is very important for our college students. We're on board with you. So anyway, thanks again for coming, and I'm sure we'll have time for questions.